If you look at the standard of a business and how it conducts itself, one of the key factors is that they're constantly striving to improve themselves and not waiting for the consumers to dictate it. That's what they're committed to. They take every effort they can because that's what's important to them. That's who they are. And without a doubt, our next guest really is the perfect example of what that business model looks like. We're talking about a business that is on the cutting edge of the technologies in our industry, that stays abreast of all the newest and the latest and the greatest, that is in every known business group and educational and new type of technology involved in it and learning about it. Years before the vehicles ever really reach their shop, they're ahead of that technology because that's what's important to them. So it's a great privilege and an honor to welcome back to our show Jeff Pheasant, owner of A Master Mechanic. And Jeff, thank you for being back here today.
Thank you for having me, Mitch.
If you don't mind, I just said a mouthful trying to describe what extraordinary efforts that you take to stay abreast of the current technologies. Briefly, share a little bit about your business group that you're a part of and the things that you are ahead of in the future technologies that are coming.
Well, we belong to a smart group. We try to take and stay up on all the latest technology and the changing of the way the vehicles are manufactured, what it takes to service that vehicle, and keep that customer running down the road without any big major issues that may plague them.
What I think is really interesting is in this business group, you're the only shop in Northern Nevada.
Yes, we are. There's a total of 50 of us altogether nationwide. In our particular group, Northern Nevada and California, there's 10 of us, and we just met up actually last week. We spent 2 days together discussing some pretty serious changes that are taking place in the automobile industry and repair. Also, 3 weeks ago, we met with one of the big manufacturers of automotive aftermarket and OEM parts to discuss different things. We spoke to them, they spoke to us to try to find out different issues that we're seeing in the industry with some of the parts that are coming out.
Well, and not to get off track of our topic of the day, but also to add to that, you're beta testing a system that only 10 shops in the country are having the privilege of beta testing for Mitchell Guide.
Yes, we feel very fortunate to be on board with Mitchell On Demand. They have a new program called Pro Demand that has not yet come out for the market. There's currently 10 shops that are testing this program, and it's a pretty sophisticated program. We feel very fortunate to be one of the first shops in the whole United States that actually were first to come online with that.
I think the reason that you were selected is noteworthy, if you don't mind sharing that with our community.
Well, they are able to see how often we are accessing that for information and the type of information that we access on there. And that is kind of why they chose our shop to come on board with that to help them work through some of the issues with it.
What I understand is that they have processes. Let's say that there's 6 different steps that they would recommend you go through, and a lot of shops may go through 2 or 3 of these steps and either give up or go on to some other or improperly diagnose a car, but that you continued on to a point where you pushed their system to the envelope and they recognized that your technicians are going beyond the ordinary facility in their scope of investigations of some of these different peculiarities, I would call them.
Yes, that's true. We have assembled quite a crew at our shop, A Master Mechanic, and I feel very proud of that. Very seldom does an automobile come to our facility that we're not able to figure out what the problem is. There's several other outfits out there that sometimes they might have a problem, and we're kind of on that list of shops to discuss what they're experiencing and try to help them through it.
You're the shop that other shops go to when they're baffled.
Yes, we try to help out others, and we all work in the same community together, and if they're willing to have those type of standards, we're willing to work with them.
Well, and I think to help our community understand the level of expertise that we're talking about here, because it is staying ahead of things that I'm learning after 30 years in the industry just by hanging out with you. Let's talk about something that I think most consumers will be completely surprised to hear about. Let's talk about top-tier fuel and detergent fuels and how they can impact today's cars.
Well, there's very few people out there that really understand there is such a thing as top-tier fuel. A lot of people, when they drive down the road, they're looking for the cheapest gas they can buy. That's not always the correct thing to do, because what they're not realizing is what it's doing internally to their motor, the type of fuel economy reduction, and the amount of service that it requires when you use these poor grades of fuel.
Well, let's talk about the top-tier detergent fuels and what do they do? Why would they be worth spending more and acquiring those?
Well, in today's market, there's several types of injection systems. Used to be that you had a carburetor on your car to choke. Not anymore. Now you have the fuel injection. There's actually a new one now, direct injection, which is doesn't have the filters that a lot of the other injection systems have. And it's very important that those receive the fuels that have the higher detergents in there. We're seeing that there's a lot of carbon deposits in your motor. When you start getting these carbon deposits in there, it reduces your volumetric efficiency. Volumetric efficiency being the amount of room in that combustion chamber for that fuel and air to mix to give you that bang to make that piston go down and make that car propel.
Well, and I think this was a kind of a surprise to me. You brought this up, and I don't think I shared this with you, but I was looking, as many of our listeners, for affordable gas. I mean, gas prices are hitting all of our wallets, and I just saw this sign one day, and the price was so far less than anything else. I immediately pulled in to fill up because I was on empty anyway, and I looked at the sign, and it was 85 octane, and I was shocked. I didn't even know they made it. But let's talk about some of the things that they can damage or cause premature wear and repairs on by using. I did not put that gas in. As soon as I recognized it was 85, I thought twice about, okay, well, there's a reason for that price, and I don't want to damage my vehicle. So I didn't do it, but I'm sure a lot of people don't even look at that. So what kind of things can they cause to go wrong by using poor grade quality fuels?
Well, to begin with, you're not going to get the mileage that you normally would get out of that fuel. Also, too, is that fuel is missing the detergents, doesn't have the formulation that you would find at some of your better grade fuels. I'm not saying that
What do the detergents do, though? I mean, we say detergents, I guess it would be like washing the inside of your washing machine, for an example. Is that what we're doing?
You could say that. It is washing the internal combustion chamber of deposits. And like I say, a lot of these new cars that are out there today, actually with the injection system, is putting fuel into this hot motor. And when it doesn't have the detergent in there, you start getting this buildup in there. When that buildup occurs, that is kind of when you start to lose your fuel economy, power. The car doesn't run as smoothly as it used to. A lot of people say, oh, I need a tune-up. A lot of your cars these days don't require tune-up until they hit 100,000 miles.
And that's basically plugs almost anymore.
Yes.
In some of these.
Yes, exactly, because a lot of the cars do not have spark plug wires anymore.
And so we talked about, you mentioned the direct injection, so I'd like to get into that a little bit about how that system works compared to a fuel injection system, normal injection system.
Well, the direct injection system, the manufacturers come up with a real neat idea, and it's very more economical with your vehicle and make it run better, but they're actually using more air than fuel to make that combustion now.
And it dumps the fuel directly. That's hence the direct injection into the combustion chamber.
Yes, it does.
So it's not like going through a fuel injector with a spray nozzle that sprays. It just dumps it into that compartment and fires it.
Yes, and a lot of it's based off of the temperature of the motor, how much fuel it's giving it, barometric pressure, and such as that.
And so if you're not using detergent fuels, then inside this fuel goes in, it's unfiltered. Any of the contaminants or, like you said, the buildups get inside the internal parts of the motor. You actually shared with me that for people with a direct injection car, there's a service that should be done, and I don't know anyone else in Northern Nevada that offers this other than you. So describe that.
Well, there is very few shops in town, and there is different types of this service that Mitch is describing, but it's fuel injection induction cleaning. It seems to make a very, very large difference in your performance, fuel economy, and acceleration. It's kind of like rejuvenating and cleaning the chimney out. I'd kind of like to offer to anybody who's out there listening that thinks that their car maybe not getting the fuel economy that it should, and it's not quite as powerful as it used to be, to stop by the shop and actually mention that you heard it on the radio. And I would be willing to do a free inspection, a hands-on with you, to see if your car may fall into this category.
Well, and I hope our community takes you up on that, because that's an extraordinary offer, and you heard it here. Just make sure you mention that you heard them on the Car Buyer Advisor for that free inspection. This time of the year, there's some other things that are factors with not only fuel, but your air conditioning and coolant system. So let's touch on some of those things that people want to address now before they wind up with major repairs they could have prevented.
Well, I'm glad you're bringing that up, because we went from having snow and cold to having 84-degree weather yesterday. And I myself personally turned on my air conditioner and found out that it needs some servicing. A lot of people don't realize that when the air conditioner needs to be serviced, it still may get cold, because the way our new freons are today, when they are actually low in the system, sometimes it'll make it get colder. But what they don't realize is it's making the rest of the system get hotter. A good sign that you may be low on Freon is when you're hearing the air conditioning compressor cycling in and out real fast.
And it's like a clicking noise. Click, and then you hear it cycle and click off and click on. And some people are going, oh, I hear that noise. Yes,
and that's can be very serious. And what people don't realize is when that clicking sound is taking place like that, that is the clutch engaging and disengaging, and that creates an awful lot of heat and friction that burns the bearing up in the front of the compressor, makes the fans come on a lot faster than they should and more often than they should. That's very tough also on the electrical system for the car.
Well, even low coolant can cause those fans to operate like you're talking about as well.
Yes, and that's another thing that people are going to start realizing is the weather's been cold, now it's starting to warm up, and they're going to notice maybe their vehicle's run a little warmer than it normally does, and they didn't notice it before because of the cool air coming through, but they're maybe a little low on coolant. They may have a leak somewhere.
Well, and I want them to really pay attention to this, because most people have some idea where their gauge normally operates at, and if you're seeing any shift in that gauge, you want to have that coolant system checked before you get into very costly repairs, because some of the aluminum block engines, if they start to warm up, aluminum heads and things, to explain some of the long-term major consequences.
Well, almost all of the manufacturers now are using aluminum for their heads and the block, water pumps, and several other components in the running gear. And it's very, very, very critical that we are using the correct coolant, and every different manufacturer has their own coolant now. It's very, very critical.
Well, and this is also something we would like to caution people about in the coolants. Just going and grabbing a jug off the shelf and putting it in your car can really be dangerous.
Well, all too often we see where somebody may drive a GM vehicle that requires what they call DexCool coolant. And people don't realize this, but they'll go and buy a gallon of green coolant, or it'll say multi use coolant, and put in that vehicle, and they really don't realize the damage that they're doing to the vehicle, such as a lot of them are silicate free. The acidic value of it is very critical. And also another thing, if you're buying straight coolant, it's very important that you're using a distilled or demineralized water. If you had to add water to your vehicle in an emergency and you were putting in tap water or something, why you may want to think about getting that flushed out and cleaned out and put the correct back in.
Well, what I thought was interesting, mix the wrong two coolants together and you get jelly.
Yes, and it also coagulates, which will plug everything up, and then it can be very serious if ignored.
Well, Jeff Pheasant with A Master Mechanic, making a good under the hood. Tell them how they can get a hold of you.
We're at 2255 Glendale Avenue, which is kind of behind the Grand Sierra Resort. We're 5 businesses east of Galletti Way, and our phone number is 358-6777, or you can find us on the web at amastermechanic.com.
I hope by now you understand why they are our expert on the show, and hope you've learned something from them, because the absolute expert in our industry. Visit them if you're not getting that knowledge from your present shop. A Master Mechanic.